Okay, let's jump right into this piece from Coffee Talk. It's titled USAID, an investment in global security.
Right. And for this deep dive, we're really going to unpack that title.
Exactly. Why does the author frame foreign assistance, USA specifically, as this critical investment?
And not just sort of charity, which is how maybe some people see it.
Yeah. The mission here is to get into why the author argues it's so crucial for, well, both global security and U.S. security.
And they definitely highlight potential consequences if funding gets cut, linking it back to specific proposals.
The source paints USAI as this instrument of soft power.
Involved in a lot global health,
Yeah.
supporting education, economic stabilization stuff.
Fighting corruption, emergency aid. It's quite a broad mandate, actually.
It really is. And the author doesn't shy away from mentioning past efforts, particularly during the Trump administration.
Right, those proposed cuts, sometimes pretty deep, like 30%.
Exactly, up to 30%. So the source is really setting the stage, saying, look, this funding is debated, and here's why cutting it is dangerous, according to us.
Okay, so let's get into that core argument. Why does the author see pulling back as so perilous? What's the link?
The central idea is, well, it's about power vacuums. The author argues that reducing aid, kind of abandoning countries in crisis.
Doesn't just save a few dollars on a spreadsheet.
No, exactly. It actively creates openings, gaps.
And the author suggests these gaps get filled by extremist groups or corrupt governments.
That's precisely the argument. They step into that void when the state, or maybe international support, falters.
And how does that connect back to, say, direct threats?
Well, the source points to the breakdown of just basic services things USAID might support, like health clinics or job programs, schools.
Okay.
And without those things, the author posits, armed groups find it way easier to recruit people.
Yes, there are fewer opportunities, more desperation.
Yeah. And people are often forced into migration, creating instability elsewhere.
That logic tracks. The source also had that analogy about health work, didn't it? Something about prevention.
Oh, right. The smoke alarm analogy. It's quite effective.
Was it again?
They highlight how USAID trains doctors, builds up health systems, things that can spot disease outbreaks early.
Before they become pandemics, potentially.
Exactly. And the author says cutting these programs, well, it's like ripping out your smoke alarms and then just hoping there won't be a fire.
It really emphasizes that preventative aspect. It's not just cleaning up messes.
It really does. And this connects to another point the source makes about global influence.
Ah, right. The idea that if the U.S. pulls back...
then rivals might step in. The source specifically mentions China and Russia.
How so?
By offering their own infrastructure deals, their own aid packages, maybe with different strings attached, gaining influence where the U.S. might be retreating.
So, in this author's view, it's not only about preventing humanitarian crises, but it's also about, strategic positioning on the world stage.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to the author's main conclusion, really.
Which is?
That this isn't charity, or it shouldn't be viewed primarily as charity. It's framed as this strategic plan, a proactive measure.
And critically, one that the author argues is actually much less expensive.
Right. Less expensive and, frankly, more efficient than having to deploy, say, military force later on to deal with the fallout from instability.
So the bottom line, according to this source, is that investing in global stability through aid is directly investing in U.S. security.
Cutting USAID funding isn't seen as a simple cost-saving measure.
It's seen as increasing future dangers. Dangers that, as the author puts it, could eventually come tapping on our door.
It's a deliberate reframing, moving the conversation away from purely moral arguments towards, well, calculated self-interest.
Which definitely gives you something to think about if this author is right, if foreign assistance truly is an investment in security.
Yeah.
What does that perspective really suggest about how deeply interconnected global stability and our own safety actually are?
That's a really interesting question to leave things on.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.